it has such a unique play style available to it because you're having to play with 0 cards in your hand at the end of your turn in order to maximize your damage output. So a really exciting matchup.
This is going to be a very, very interesting matchup, and hopefully we'll be able to see a little bit more out of the Grand Ball deck in this match compared to in the first round, where it kind of got rolled over by the Zoroark control a little bit. So
we see the handshake. Both players are ready to go. Both players have awkward prize cards. Javier has 2 Snubbles in his prize cards straight away, and Alex has his Diancie Prism Star in the prizes, so not fantastic for either player.
No.
Let's see if they can get set up as usual as we see Javier open out his turn here. He has Snubble, he has a Nest Ball as well, an Ultra Ball, so looks like his opening hand is pretty strong here.
Yeah, so that looks like to be a great ball to start off with, able to get himself that Grand Ball, then follows up straight away with a Nest Ball and looking to grab what looks to be a Slugma.
Yeah, this is one of the key components of the Grand Ball archetype. In order to maintain your all-out attack for the maximum damage output, it does 30 base, but if you have 0 cards left in your hand at the end of the turn, you do an extra 130 damage. And in order to do that, you require, oftentimes, a combination of Oranguru and Magcargo to guarantee that you can discard your hand or have none at the end of your turn.
Yeah, and also just to make sure that when you have nothing in your hand, that you see something useful the next turn, because obviously normally if you play to a 0-card hand, it's absolutely terrible, because that means you have no options next turn, but you just build your deck in a way where it's less terrible, like the Javier has done, or how all Grand Ball players do, and that's pretty much just the way this archetype operates.
Oh, wow, that's a huge instruct from him. Instruct for 1 gets him into Apricorn Maker. This is pretty much the Grand Ball equivalent of finding a Professor Elm's lecture, because your Snubbles have 70 hit points, the Slugmas have 70 or 80, Oranguru has 120, so they're all out of range for Professor Elm. So you have to rely on Apricorn Maker to help you get your basics into play. And he's just going straight for 2 Nest Balls here to grab himself that Ditto Prism Star and potentially another Snubble if he wishes.
Yeah, it could not have asked for much of a better start than that. And yeah, indeed, there is Nest Ball number 1 grabbing the Snubble, and Nest Ball number 2, I imagine this will probably grab the Ditto now, just so he can decide whether he wants to turn it into another Grand Ball or turn it into a second Magcargo.
He's also even playing a Zeb Striker line in his deck as well, so he has the additional option to evolve into extra stage ones, just in case he wants that viability. Instead, he's going for a second Oranguru, also an important card, to have multiple instructs to, again, just help you get through your turns.
Yeah, I think maybe perhaps one of the reasons why he decided not to go for the Ditto is, of course, that being a 40 HP fighting weak Pokemon, that Buzzwole is going to prey on the Ditto very, very, very easily.
Absolutely. We do see that Shrine of Punishment tick over for that first damage counter. It's definitely a big deal against certain archetypes so that you can take some knockouts. For this deck in particular, it means that Javier may not need a Choice Band later on in the game as long as the Shrine of Punishment stays in play. But we are going to see over on Alex's side, he's going to open with that Lycia as well as going for a Beast Energy Prism Star. So he's going to be out the gates very strong here, doing at least 60 damage to the active with his Jet Punch attack and 30 to the bench. This is pretty much what Alex needs to do in order to keep up with this deck. It needs to continue to spread damage across the board and sometimes take multiple knockouts. That's by going from an early Buzzwole GX and transitioning later on into sometimes your Alolan Ninetales to do 70-30s with the Snowy Wind attack.
Yeah, Snowy Wind is another, again, one of the great options that's you have access to when you're playing a lot of Ninetales, as well as searching out the items. Just being able to do 70 plus 30 to the bench is kind of like a slightly lesser Night Spear, but for 20 less damage to the active, but still 30 onto the bench, especially with hitting numbers against the Grand Ball deck specifically, because of the amount of HP that Snubble has, ends up working out really, really nicely indeed. As we see there, Alex actually goes for the Marshadow, benches it, and does make use of that Let Loose ability.
So he's trying to deny Javier getting into exactly what he wants, because you saw that even though he instructed just into 3 cards, Alex is trying to get even more going here. He's sadly prized his Diancie, which means he's not going to be able to knock out the Snubble, which was pretty much what he wanted to do early on with his Lycia. So it's a really awkward thing that was his first search of the game. So instead he's going to go for the Let Loose and try and get a few more things going, namely trying to get a Stadium in play, I believe, so that he could be a little bit more tanky against the incoming Grand Ball.
Yeah, definitely, and we do see there the Shrine of Punishment damage already starting to add up there. Another 10 going onto the freshly benched Buzzwole, and another 10 going onto the active, putting it on 20. And because Alex wasn't able to find a counter stadium, that means, again, going into his turn, it's going to be another 10 on both of them. And as we mentioned before, that Shrine of Punishment damage adds up so quickly. And now that there's 2 damage on the one on the active, Javier won't even need a choice band to, if he's able to thin out his entire hand and go down to 0 to KO the Buzzwole.
Yeah, and he's got it guaranteed. He has 2 playable cards in his hand, which he can hold for the entire game, which means he can smooth over for a second Slugma to fully set up his board exactly how he wants. He can play this... he can instruct now, put that Slugma down and play every card in his hand because his other cards are an Energy and a Gramble. So he's got the ideal setup. He's going to be able to finish off this Buzzwole thanks to the Shrine of Punishment. And man, that's a really strong turn 2 from him.
Showing really the power of Gramble right there when you're able to set up everything exactly like you need, just doing a quite frankly obscene amount of damage for 1 energy on a non-GX stage 1 Pokemon.
It's such a remarkable card because you would think it would never work because it's, playing with a 0-card hand is so counterintuitive to most card games, but the payoff is so big that people just make it work.
Yeah, and not only that, but right now we have the cards to make it work. We have the Orangurus of this world. We have Makagos. I think those 2 cards existing really enables this archetype to push forward and be as strong as it is.
So, having taken 2 prizes, Alex is now able to go into his B-string turns. He's going to fire one off straight away onto his bench Buzzwole GX. He does have more energy in his hand, and he also has a Lycanroc available to him, so plenty of options here.
Yeah, and he also has, evolving into the Alolan Ninetales GX, Mysterious Guidance, going to fetch him any 2 items he wants. Looks like he's looking at an Ultra Ball and a Choice Band right now.
It may be so that he can just find himself Tapu Lele to get himself into better stead here, just getting the Choice Band because he knows it's a card that he doesn't need. So he's just going to burn that straight away alongside his Lycanroc, finding himself a non-GX Buzzwole so he can take advantage of his Sledgehammer turn.
Yes, indeed. Javier having exactly 4 prizes left means that Sledgehammer is doing, of course, 120 damage instead of the usual 30 for that single fighting energy. And yeah, he's got it all. There's the Guzma bringing up the Makago.
Definitely important. Alex is going to have to try and make Javier miss a beat here. That's the big thing. Gramble is amazing when it's working, but it can be fragile. If you don't have the right combination of cards in your hand, it may not always cooperate, and you won't always be able to do all out for the maximum damage. So trying to target down these Slugmas and Makagos, that's the real engine that keeps the deck ticking over. And seeing as though Alex's deck is much more GX focused, you're going to have to try and stop this Gramble from using its attacks how it wants to every single turn.
Yeah, definitely. Although a huge draw there from Javier as he does see his other Makago, evolves that Slugma straight away, and now I would be shocked if he wasn't able to get another all-out going.
He's got it guaranteed again. He's got the Apricorn Maker in his hand. He can get, again, 2 cards, and he can get himself Ultra Ball and a Great Ball or Nest Ball, whatever he wants to do, get himself down to that 2-card hand, and then he can take a Smooth Over plus that last Instruct and make sure that he can have everything playable. It's guaranteed at this point as long as he doesn't mess up his sequencing.
Yeah, which I'm sure he won't, because of course he is a very, very good player. Now, there goes, he just plays the Great Ball out of his hand straight away, and just uses that to, actually just fails that and then plays the Nest Ball and grabs the Ditto. Here comes a Smooth Over, probably grabbing just something to make sure that he can thin out the rest of his hand. Probably an Ultra Ball, because then he just instructs for free and gets another Gramble.
Well, he's at 0, so there's nothing else he really needs this turn. So he might just be putting a Diantha to the top for next turn, unless he does want to keep digging. The only other thing I can think of is him wanting to get a Granbull out, just to make that snubble a little bit safer.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So if he just grabs the Ultra Ball here, then, maybe not. He just get it next turn, I guess.
The only awkward thing about trying to dig more is that you could end up having to discard better cards with your own Ultra Ball.
That is very true.
So just putting something safer to the top is never a bad option, especially because there are risks involved with Gramble's all-out attack.
Yeah, no, that does make a lot of sense. And just as we mentioned before, we do see there the Ditto being preyed upon very easily by the Buzzwole GX. Bloodthirsty Eyes on the Lycanroc, bringing it up to the active, and then Jet Punch, KOing it and putting 30 onto the Makago. Yeah,
lightning pace turn from Alex Schemanske here. He's not been able to bounce this Shrine of Punishment. It's getting a huge amount of value for Javier. It's one of those cards that if you just get into play early, it can just do so much for you. And pretty much everything's set up for Javier now. All he needs to do is worry about continuing this onslaught with Gramble.
Yeah, and because he has the Makago out, and because Alex wasn't able to KO the second one, I mean, it's just so easy for him at this point. He's already got his hand down to 0 again. He can just smooth over again, put whatever he wants on the top of his deck for next turn, and yeah, I mean, he is just running away with this game right now.
And looks like he's putting Guzma to the top. He's at the end game situation. He can simply knock out this active Buzzwole GX go down to 1 prize card remaining, and Guzma's already on the top for him to finish off that Alolan Ninetales or that Lycanroc.
Yeah.
So he's in really great shape.
He is, although he has just grabbed 2 Snubbull from his prizes.
Well, they may still be playable cards as long as, well, Alex just scoops there.
Javier takes game 1, and we're moving on to game 2, and that is, I think, a much better demonstration perhaps than round 1 of just how powerful Gramble can be when it gets going.
I've been very impressed by how Javier's played the deck. It's obviously one that he's tested a lot, because there are pitfalls throughout the game when you play this deck. You're having to be very cautious, very careful, sequence perfectly every single turn of the game with this deck. He did have the ideal turn 1. He was able to, fortunately, instruct for 1 card, and it happened to be an Apricorn Maker, which allowed him to get the perfect bench going from the offset. And that's really what kept him going throughout the game. But you have to give him credit. He's made every decision correct. There were times where we were debating whether or not he'd instruct or not, and he was being disciplined. That's definitely something that you need to take into consideration when you are playing Gramble.
Yeah. It reminds me a bit of Night March in the sense that, that was the deck where if you wanted to play it at the highest levels, it was similar, where you could just go as far as you wanted to keep digging and just discard everything. But really, when you're playing it at its most optimal, you had to sometimes hold back a little bit, not discard everything, and just make sure you had enough attackers to see you through the game and only really go for the big discards when you needed that huge knockout. It's a similar sort of concept in that regard.
And we do have to give commiseration to Alex. He led Lycia and could have got an early Snubbull knockout and really got the ball rolling, but he just happened to prize his Diancie Prism Star, which was a really awkward situation for him. He couldn't have used any other search options to have known that at the time.
No,
and
exactly.
It really meant that his opening turns were a lot weaker than they perhaps could have been. So I think now that he's able to go first, establish some more energy attachments, and hopefully it allows things like the Lycanroc and the Alolan Ninetales to get into the game a lot more this time around.
Yeah. I think we should take a sort of brief moment as well to mention how, Lycia, when it first came out, wasn't really a card that many people considered using, but it seems like now, in Buzzwole at least especially, because getting that turn 1 of your main 2 damage boosters is so strong, it seems to be a lot more worth it to play now. Like I said, those prizes.
we've just said how important it could be, but there it is, lying in the prizes alongside 3 Professor Kukuis. That's going to be very awkward.
Was it 3 or 2?
I think it was 3.
Goodness gracious me.
That's going to be awkward for Alex, definitely. He is going first, though, and I think if you're Alex, he did the right things, to be honest. He knocked out the Mad Cargos, and he dealt with a Ditto Prism Star. He was trying to keep up as much as he could, and I think that indicates to me that he knows the matchup very well. Trying to deal with that engine is going to slow down the Gramble more than just knocking out Gramble after Gramble. And let's face it, it's much more difficult because they have more hit points. So trying to deal with the Mad Cargos is definitely going to be Alex's route to victory here in Game 2.
Yeah, without a doubt. Now, there goes Alex going first, using the Brooklet Hill straight away, grabbing himself a Rockruff. Now, the rest of his hand looks like he's got a Choice Band, and is that a Unit Energy? Yes, it is.
Looks to be Unit Energy. He also has a Lily to top up his hand, so he's going to get motoring through. This Alolan Ninetales can be a great attacker on turn 2. It does a perfect amount to finish off Snubbles, and seeing as though he's already developed the Rockruff, that's really likely to come down and deal with Snubbull or any other bench Pokemon that Javier only puts down 1 copy of. He can sort of get it out of the active and deal with it before it even becomes a Stage 1 Pokemon.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Javier, with a really decent start himself, able to open with the Apricorn Maker again, like you said, Joe, that really ideal turn 1 card for this deck. So I imagine, just grabbing himself 2 Nest Balls straight away, and so he'll be able to get himself a Snubbull or 2, maybe a Ditto. It just sort of depends on what he feels like is the best choice for him. Yeah,
once again, he's got a really strong hand. He's got those 2 Nest Balls. He's also got Ultra Ball to boot, so potentially he'll be able to get 3 basic Pokemon down and also get some additional Instructs this turn to hopefully go even deeper.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what he'll be thinking of doing. Now he's just taking a quick look to make sure he knows what is prized, and he actually looks like he might be deciding what to get already. So deciding Slugma for number 1, and then there's the second Nest Ball, and going to be grabbing the Snubbull off of that. Yeah, it's one of these decks that almost changes your mindset of how to play Pokemon. It makes you decide everything before you've done anything. So he's already decided exactly what he's doing for this entire turn, because that's just how Granbull makes you think now. Yeah. It's one of these decks where, like you said, you just have to get the sequencing perfectly and make sure that you don't mess up the ordering, or make sure that you don't get too greedy and discard the wrong things, so that you can just play out your entire hand to 0 while simultaneously not screwing yourself over for the next few turns. The only thing he's thinking about now, he's asking Alex how many cards in his hand. He's trying to think, how likely is it that Alex can deal with my single Snubbull? Do I need to be safe here and get a Ditto down? If I do get Ditto, it means he can either target Snubbull
or Slugma, and I can still get the stage 1 up next turn. So I think that's the ideal choice here for him, and that's exactly what he's going to go for. It guarantees that he can get an attack off with a Gramble, or get a smooth over to, again, help you get an attack off with Gramble.
Yeah, that's definitely the ideal time to use it, especially now that we're in a stage of the game where Alex is much less likely to be able to threaten a Jet Punch KO. He would need to get the Buzzwole and the Fighting Energy and the Guzma to KO the Ditto this turn.
He's also able to get that Shrine of Punishment into play, stopping Alex getting value from that Brooklet Hill. We are going to see him, however, put down a Buzzwole GX, once again bounce that Stadium, and he's also committed his attachment already to the Buzzwole GX, so maybe he's eyeing up a Guzma play once again.
Yeah, maybe, like, exactly as I said, I said he would need all 3 of those things, but he probably, it looks like, from the way he's playing, he probably has them already, and of course, if he does, then there's no reason to not go for this play, so that should be pretty solid regardless. So, yeah, he's got it in his hand, so...
Targeting down that Ditto Prism Star once again. It does have fighting weakness and only 40 hit points, so it is an easy pickings knockout for him. He's also going to put 30 damage onto that Slugma. Even at its max hit points, that Magcargo becomes 90, so a number of Jet Punches later and even Snowy Wind can definitely finish off that. So I really like Alex's choices here.
Yeah, definitely. We do see that it was 2 Kukui prize. I'm fairly sure the one that he just picked up wasn't a Kukui, although I could be wrong there. No, he doesn't have a Kukui in his hand, so he's got 2 left to... Oh, no, he does have one in his hand. Okay, I don't know. But anyway,
we'll see. Regardless,
yeah, regardless,
Javier is going for the smooth over now. He's currently got 1 card in his hand, but he's got Apricorn Maker, and that can again do great math fixing. You can instruct into 3 cards and then one of them becomes Apricorn Maker. You can grab yourself something like a Nest Ball and an Ultra Ball, and once again you're in good shape.
Yeah, the one problem for him here is that he's out of draw cards and he doesn't have any energy, so he can go for the Apricorn Maker. If he has another Oranguru, he can instruct and maybe hope to hit the energy off that plus 2 more playable cards, but he doesn't have it guaranteed like he did in the last game.
Yeah, he may have to go blind here. He may have to use Nest Ball to try and find another Oranguru and just be fortunate enough to instruct into energy. And that's one of the interesting sort of delicate tightropes you have to run with Gramble. You want to get as many cards as you want to hit your outs with energy, but you don't want to draw so many cards that there's that random element that you can't play down your hand.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the tightrope you have to walk. Now, he does play the Great Ball first, finds himself a Snubble, so that's pretty good. So he gets 1 more card out of the deck. Then Nest Ball will follow that up, and yeah, he has to get Oranguru here, really.
That Snubble, you could see how excited he was. That was really important for him to hit either Snubble or Oranguru. That's why he used it before the Nest Ball to have the best odds. Now he's got a pretty nice board. He does have 2... Actually, he already has an unplayable card in Gramble, so he's just hoping to hit an energy here to put the Buzzwole GX in range, but a little unfortunate to miss here.
Yeah, that's not ideal for him, so he will just have to announce a pass there, and this is looking already very, very different to how Javier was progressing in Game 1.
Yeah, it's not quite the same as a turn 2 knockout from Javier.
No.
And Alex has already been able to take 1 prize. He's also able to refresh his hand here with a Cynthia, hoping to get more pressure with this Buzzwole. He still has Lycanroc available to him. Another great thing is that Buzzwole can do 100 damage to Oranguru, thanks to that Diancie to buff it. And again, that then becomes in range for future Jet Punches. It really is a tale of sniping in order to win this matchup.
Yeah, definitely. No, the one saving grace for Javier is that Alex did not have another Guzma plus like a Ninetales plus an energy or something like that to just KO the Snubble, for example, and do 30 somewhere else. So, although there is a switch.
Wait a minute, he can go for switch and Ultra Ball, get himself a Lycanroc GX, and then essentially do that exact play.
Oh dear, oh dear. This could be a very strong turn for Alex. What's he going to discard off of the second card, the Ultra Ball? Looks like it's going to be Marshadow.
Yeah, that seems to be a fairly safe option. He has another supporter in his hand, so it looks like he's going to be, again, just trying to stop Javier's progression, make it difficult, try and hurt the engine. There's only 1 Magcargo in play, and that's going to get knocked out. There's no Slugmas in sight, so trying to get rid of that smooth over, make it so that Javier has to do all these instructs without any guarantees.
Yeah, absolutely, and wow, yeah, exactly like you said, doing the same play, but just using different cards instead, because don't even need Guzma to go for this, and actually just kills Magcargo instead. That's actually even better.
Magcargo is definitely a great choice here. I potentially would have liked to see the 30 damage go onto an Oranguru, because I've already mentioned how the 100 damage can come into play so well with Buzzwole, but also putting 30 on the Gramble can set it up for future turns as well, so can't really debate that. We are going to see Javier go for a Rescue Stretcher, trying to develop that Slugma as soon as possible. He does do that 1 card Instruct, getting him just the Zeb Striker, which isn't too much help right now. I think he does have a Diantha, but of course it was the Magcargo, which was knocked out. So Javier's going to have to play a Guzma here just to get a card out of his hand. He's drawn into a Magcargo. Good card, just not this turn.
And that was additionally another reason why it was pretty clever to KO the Magcargo instead of the Snubble, because if the Snubble was KO'd, the Diantha would be live.
Yeah, and Diantha is so great at picking and choosing the perfect combination to make sure that you take the knockouts and so that you can get the most out of your turn. We are going to see Alex now. He's having to play a Cynthia here. He doesn't have an easy way of moving his Diancie out of the active this turn, so Javier's stalling Guzma has worked so far.
Yeah, it sure has, and if Alex misses a beat this turn and ends up not being able to take a knockout on a Grand Ball, then that is the opening that Javier would have to come back into this game, given that he's already 2 prizes down. And oh, but Alex found his other Switch.
Wow, he plays 2 copies of Switch and he's found it an opportune moment. This is going to be fantastic for him. It also means he can get an extra attachment in this turn onto that Lycanroc GX, and he's also trying to once again set up that Slugma and again just try and target down that engine.
Yeah, and Javier's hand is starting to become a lot more clogged with just stuff. I mean, that you can't really play it. There's another Snubble, there's a Diantha, just these unplayable cards really.
He has to play down the Snubble just to get 1 draw, I think, because he can't just he can instruct and smooth over, but it's still really awkward for him. We are going to see the smooth over here. It's likely that he has to play down the Snubble this turn, but yeah, it's really awkward for him. Looks like he's trying to eye up that Fairy Energy, putting it to the top.
Well, I mean, the thing is for Javier is that in theory, although it's very unlikely, a KO is still within reach for him this turn. He would need Shrine of Punishment, Energy, Choice Band, and all the cards in his hand to be gone.
He may be hedging instead. It looks like he put an Ultra Ball to the top from what I could see, because sometimes just doing that 30 can still put the Alolan Ninetales in range later on. So you mentioned that you could get a dream scenario where you get absolutely everything, but if you hedge and just find yourself a regular just Fairy Energy card, you're setting up that Alolan Ninetales to keep jumping on these 2 prize knockouts.
Yeah, he did go for the Ultra Ball instead though, so thinning his entire hand out, and he sees, 2 Fairy Energy.
Well, at least he got the 1, so he can do that important 30 damage.
Yeah. So now next turn, all he needs is either Choice Band or Shrine of Punishment to get the knockout, as well as playing out his hand.
And now he's holding on to Energy and Diantha, so that's going to be likely, I would say.
Yeah. So this is the chance Javier has to be able to make a comeback here. Now, obviously, it's going to be very tricky because Alex is going to have a free prize lead at the very least before doing so, but at least it gives him a chance. Absolutely.
Alex does crack on with a Cynthia. He's been chaining those turn by turn, getting himself fresh hands whenever possible. The Alolan Ninetales is able to knock out a Gramble if it wants to. It could put an extra 30 damage onto that Magcargo and continue to pressure it if he so wishes. But he may also want to move this Ninetales out the way just to force Javier to have more outs.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how Alex plays this out. There's the Beast Energy ready to go in hand if he wants to put it somewhere. It looks like he's going to opt to put it onto the GX Buzzwole and just actually opt for Snowy Wind again. Yeah, I think it's a really solid play here. It takes 1 Gramble off the board and it continues to pressurize that Magcargo. He's forced Javier's hand and made it so that he's only been able to get 1 out every turn and never have a Magcargo and a Slugma all in the same turn. Oh, he's just drawn into a Fairy Energy card. He still can Diantha and he can get Ultra Ball, but it does make life a little bit more awkward for him now. Because it gets rid of 1 more energy resource he could use to attack with. Yeah, and it essentially burns one of his instructs, I believe. He could attach the energy first, he could instruct into 3, and then he can Diantha, get himself Ultra Ball and basic Pokemon. That's probably the best thing he can do here, from what I can imagine. You can see he's eyeing up what he should be taking from his Diantha here. Yeah, he's got the Choice Band on the Grand Ball already, so he doesn't need to get a Shrine of Punishment. So in order to get the KO, he's debating how to actually approach this turn. The Fairy goes onto the active, and like I said, you can Diantha here, just grab another basic and just grab something that will let him thin the rest of his hand out. Essentially, by using the Diantha first, he does it so that he can play the Shrine of Punishment, so he still can do the Instruct to draw more cards. He's just done it the other way around, so to speak. So he just draws into a Mysterious Treasure, which is one that he's not too sad about losing, and he's able to Ultra Ball here. He has no more Slugmas in his deck, so he's having to settle for a Gramble here. That Magcargo dangerously low on hit points, and it could become a hurdle later on, but for now at least, this Gramble ready to go. He can use that Smooth Over and put something to the top. It's kind of one of those cards where you'd want to maybe put the Diantha to the top this turn, but he's just used it. Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, that's not going to be able to work out for him. Now, yeah, this move gets done, and here comes the
all out. Yeah, here it comes. He's also got that shrine ticking over, so it's been a good turn for Javier, to be honest. It's just that Alex has put his damage in the right places at the right times, and it's going to be very awkward for Javier to continue these knockouts as long as Alex chooses to hunt down those mag cargoes as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely. Here comes an energy switch, so moving the... Or is it multi-switch? Or either way, it doesn't matter. There's and Guzma.
Yeah, I like this play a lot. He's targeting down this Oranguru and the mag cargo in the same turn, and just hoping, crossing his fingers, that it means that Javier cannot get a knockout with Gramble next turn.
Yeah, that's just playing out the rest of his hand, Ultra Ball discarding everything, and getting alone on Ninetales too, so he'll be able to use Mysterious Guidance and get what's to be a Field Blower, and no, you can't get Kukui off of that.
B-String sounds good though.
That B-String does sound good. Oh my goodness gracious me.
Field Blower, really a big deal to stop that Shrine of Punishment ticking over as it did in that game 1.
And getting rid of the Choice Band as well.
Yeah, it's 2 birds in 1 stone, and Alex has played it at the perfect situation here, as well as being able to deal with, a lot of Javier's engine all in 1 turn.
And now Alex is also only 1 prize away from winning.
He's really done the right things to keep the squeeze on Javier. He's missed 1 turn of a big all-out, and that's been enough for Alex to just really take command of the board. He's got a lot of threatening attackers now. Even if Javier does take a knockout, I mean, there's game being represented on all fronts here.
Yeah, Javier would need a Guzma to KO the Lycanroc, and then hope Alex doesn't have another energy for the other Boswell. That's the only way.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only hope right now, but doesn't look like his hand's cooperating. He's trying to figure out what he can do here. He only has 2 Pokemon on his bench currently, so the Lycanroc GX attack is not currently game.
But he can just use Claw Slash.
Oh, of course. I was yeah, of course.
Yeah, because with the Jancy it's 130, it's enough.
Yeah, so no problems here. Smooth sailing for Alex.
Yeah.
Unless there's any random like Plumerias or anything that Javier could do this turn.
But he's just played an Apricorn Maker.
Yeah,
so
he's pretty much done now.
Yeah.
Looks like he's going through the motions. He's using the Apricorn Maker, then using, I think it was a Rescue Stretcher just to recover cards, and he's going to go for that all out. This is maybe the safest move, just to force Alex to actually move this Buzzwole out the way.
Yeah, just because right now it can't actually retreat, so he would need to find another energy. Or even just a B-String would work. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, and Alex just checks with that Brooklet Hill before putting down his Tapu Lele to get that Guzma to pick off Javier's, well, whatever he wants, really, to round out Game 2. So 1-1 here, a much closer matchup there.
Yeah, definitely. I think really Alex showing, just regardless of how powerful Gramble is, that you can still make the right plays and really put the squeeze on what is a little bit of a glass cannon deck to make sure that it can still pull out the victory again, even if it's an inferior, non-favorable prize trade based on the fact that it's GXs against non-GXs.
Yeah, and that's one of the big reasons why you want to play Gramble. If you only have a non-GX in the active, your opponent can only take 1 prize. Well, that's not the case if you're doing lots of spread damage throughout the game and jumping over and taking multiple. And also Alex doing so well to target that engine. It's, it seems obvious just to keep going for that mag cargo, make it more difficult for Javier, but having to overextend sometimes and take risks, putting your Buzzwole GXs in the line of fire, even though they are 2 prize Pokemon that can just get blown away by Grambles, you've got to be brave in this matchup in order to win it.
Yeah, because if you let your opponent just carry on with their engine and just go target down the attackers, then they'll always have a follow-up one, whereas if you take out the engine, maybe one turn they miss a beat, like Javier did, and then you can put a real stranglehold on the game and clench your victory.
Yeah, absolutely. So Javier is going to get to go first in this game. We've seen how important it is to go first for all these evolution decks. In Game 1, he was able to get a turn 2 Granbull knockout whilst also having Smooth Over available to him for the following turn and 2 Orangurus in play. So we're going to see if he can replicate that all over again. That's got to be what he looks for here in order to stay in this for Game 3.
Oh yeah, that's for certain. Now, both players are pretty much ready to go. They are set up. And, oh no, Javier is taking a mulligan, it looks like.
Yeah, it's not too unlikely. He's playing just the Snubbles, the Orangurus, and the Magcargo. It's very strict in how the deck functions because it's really looking to get an ideal board state every game. You're trying to get what I like to call 2 pink, 2 red, 2 white. Trying to get 2 Orangaroos, a Slugma and a Magcargo at least, and if you can get a Snubble and a Gramble, or double Gramble, that's the real dream.
Yeah, it's like 2 of each. Maybe even, obviously, with Javier, he's playing the Zeb Striker as well, so maybe one of the whites can be sort of a Zeb Striker instead.
Yeah, that's fine too. That's fine, of course. We are going to see them kicking off here in this game 3. As we mentioned, Javier is going to take the reins and have his first turn here. Is he able once again to get that Apricorn Maker rolling? He does have an Orangaroo and Apricorn Maker. Everything's going swimmingly for him this series.
Yeah, this is really great start from Javier again. With I think he's not missed turn 1 Apricorn Maker in any of the games.
That is literally the dream.
Yeah.
He's once again searching out those nest balls. He's going to look to get his ideal setup going. He's going to look through, see if there's anything awkward prize. He's eyeing up those Magcargos. There's a Ditto, of course, which can become everything. We've seen it so much in Zoroark builds. We've seen it even in Boswell variants. It's been in Decidueye variants. It's been in everything.
Yeah,
and that just speaks to how versatile it can be.
Yeah, it's an insanely versatile and powerful card in what it enables you to do. Now, he does Javier go for the Ditto again, thinking that I think this time it will be extremely hard for Alex to get the KO. And I have said that before, but I think given that Alex has benched the Vulpix, he would need a Fighting Energy and then a Switch plus the Guzma, which I guess he could have because he did have pretty insane turns last time, but either way.
Yeah, if they have it, they have it. That's kind of what you've got to say at this point. He's just trying to protect himself around all eventualities. He knows that Alex plays Lycia, so he's trying to protect, make sure he can get a Gramble next turn, even if Alex does go for that early Lycia and get Beast Energy Diancie, dealing with his Snubble, all these sorts of things. He knows he plays plenty of Kukui as well, so he's just making sure he has all the options for next turn.
Yeah, that makes sense. And a pass from Javier as Alex draws a Professor Kukui for his turn, but he does have the Ultra Ball to start things off with as well, so discarding a Fighting Energy and a Cynthia.
So if he's trying to be Mr. Aggressive, he might be Ultra Balling here to find himself that Diancie to take that prize in combination with Professor Kukui if he really wants to go down that route. Seeing as though he got rid of a Cynthia might indicate that that's what he wants to go for. On his initial search here, he's eyeing up that Let Loose Marshadow, though, which is a really interesting decision here.
That is an interesting decision. Could maybe be thinking if I can give Javier a 4-card hand, he'll be drawing another one for his turn, going up to 5. Maybe he won't be able to play out his entire hand in order to get an all-out off.
Sometimes here it's about instinct and maybe some facial expressions, stuff like that. You could maybe see Javier mapping out his next turn. He maybe sort of gestured that he had an Ultra Ball in hand, which he does.
Yeah.
It's those sorts of things that only players in the moment can pick up on. He is going to find himself...
Lily.
He's going to go for Tapu Lele to find the Lily to get as many cards as possible here. That's never a bad move.
No, never at all. So he does have another... You have an energy he can attach as well before the Lily, so I believe that will be 5 from the Lily, given that he has 3 in hand.
Pretty strong stuff. He could still eye up things like Diancie, Brooklet Hill, any more Rockruff. The deck is still very setup focused. He's also going to spend his Field Blower to try and make it more difficult for Javier to get the knockout on his Buzzwole GX right now.
And then there's just going to be a Jet Punch again, just targeting down that Slugma straight away.
Yeah, and it just shows that Alex knows the matchup very well. Javier does have Ultra Ball in hand. He's also got the Zeb Striker available for him, so he can start doing some sprints this game.
Yes, he can, and putting out another Snubble as well, so it's like he's...
There's the Choice Band. He may have to get rid of it with an Ultra Ball, though. But he could always just go for Choice Band into Sprint, but if you can Ultra Ball, find yourself Magcargo, and then smooth over into Sprint, that is also a great out for you.
Yeah, that's very true. Choice Band, looks like it might go on Reactive instead. Yeah, it does.
He could use his second Instruct as well, so he can do it this way around. And again, he's drawn into a card that he'd kind of want to play here. He can Ultra Ball for the Magcargo. Then he can smooth over before sprinting. He can smooth over Ultra Ball to the top. Then if any of his other 3 cards are energy, he can get the knockout this turn.
Yeah, and let's say that's what he's going to go for here. So yeah, Ultra Ball grabs Magcargo, smooth over grabs something. I didn't actually see what that was.
He's not even played a supporter yet, has he? So
no.
It could also just be Apricorn Maker. That gives you the most flexibility with what you want to draw.
Yeah. Now, do you... Yeah, so he does that, and I imagine he's just going to go for Sprint. So discarding nothing, drawing 4. Yeah, he has gone for the Apricorn Maker there. And
He's got himself energy, which is a really big deal now as well.
He has done it, ladies
Yep.
and gentlemen.
Yep, guaranteed now. He can use Apricorn Maker. That is his supporter for turn. He can simply just grab the one Ultra Ball if he wants to and save the other resources in his hand.
Does he have... Hold on, but he's got a Gramble in his hand and an energy. Does he have anything else that... What's the other thing he discarded?
Wow, he's got 2 cards in his hand right now.
It must be Gramble, Fairy Energy.
Gramble Energy. Yeah, okay, so he's opted to... He got 2 targets. He got a Great Ball, and then he used Ultra Ball to remove Great Ball and Diantha.
Right.
So he could just manually evolve and attach.
Okay.
It means that he saves a Gramble that would otherwise be in the discard pile.
Yeah,
Now
okay.
it's still in his deck.
Yes, that makes sense. And this is looking closer to game 1 in terms of Javier's start. He's got a really incredible board set up. He got Zeb Striker as well, which didn't even have game 1. He's got the Macago down. He's got a backup Snubble, and he's got 2 Orangurus.
Alex does have some good response here, though. He's able to attach a unit energy to his active Alolan Vulpix. He's also got that Alolan Ninetales that he's now eyeing up to start getting him into a lot of item cards to see if that can get him into a good stead here. He's actually just going to go for the non-GX Buzzwole, and he's going to go ahead and use that Cynthia. He's already committed an energy to his Alolan Vulpix, so very interesting choice.
However, once he finds an Alolan Ninetales, he can grab himself a Beastring and attach the Buzzwole that way.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So I guess what he's trying to do is he's trying to get the best of both worlds. He could go for Beast Ring plus a multi-switch. That might be the way that he gets his Ninetales attacking this turn, so he needs the full combination here.
Yeah, he does. But I mean, if he has a Ninetales, then you
the
can...
full combination being a Ninetales.
Yeah, because that gets you the stuff you need anyway. Now, there's the Beastring. I don't see a Ninetales, though.
Ooh, man. But he could just pay retreat as well. He could just do the Sledgehammer turn this turn.
Yeah, and that's probably why he opted to attach to the active, just to make sure that in the worst eventuality, he can just... Well, that, and if he got the energy switch or the multi-switch, then he could have done that, but at its worst, he can do this retreat.
He had the high roll dream, but also he was playing safe. He's also able to use the switch to even preserve that energy for later, which is a great deal for him.
So even better. So now we'll just see choice band going onto the bench. Alolan Vulpix, more just get it out of the hand. He knows that he won't need those against this matchup at all, and just goes for the Sledgehammer KO.
Does take advantage of that 4-prize turn. Back over to Javier now, and he's going to kick off his turn with a smooth over. And with a board set up like this, I'd be very surprised if he wasn't able to manipulate his hand into getting an all-out for a knockout.
Yeah, I'm sure he will be able to. He drew a Gramble for turn as well, so he already has the attacker ready to go. He might even just want to be going for another Snubble just to make sure that he has a follow-up attacker, or, like you said, Diantha, he can get back Fairy Energy, whatever he needs. I agree with you completely. I'd be shocked if he didn't have access to an attacker this turn.
You can see he is eyeing up Diantha by the looks of things. That could get him something like Ultra Ball plus Energy, which would be a great way to guarantee it, and also put potentially another Slugma on your board if you wanted to. He's going to instruct into that Diantha. Go ahead and play it. He can guarantee 2 cards from his discard pile as long as one of your fairy Pokemon were knocked out that turn. And these are the exact 2 cards he grabs. He's going to go ahead, get himself Ultra Ball. He actually just needs to get another Snubble here to guarantee more attackers.
Yeah, so there is. But a Snubble and Fairy Energy goes on, and that's another all-out for a knockout. Another ideal turn for Javier here.
Or he could just use Sprint for the fun of it.
I think that might be a bit too risky.
He didn't go for it. I can't believe it.
Yeah, because if you sprint and you end up drawing up 4 unplayable cards, you're going to feel very, very silly.
Yeah, but what if you get it, man? What if you just had it all?
Joe, Maximum Greed Bernard, ladies and gentlemen.
We pass it over back to Alex. He's got a second energy attachment onto his Alolan Vulpix. He commits another choice band just to not draw into it before using the Cynthia. And once again, it's try and find that Ultra Ball or try and find that Ninetales. That's what we're after here.
Indeed he is. Now, is he able to find it? Did he miss?
I think he's got Rescue Stretcher. Is that going to be an out here?
It's an out to Buzzwole. There's not really an out to Ninetales. He hasn't discarded one.
That is a big whiff from him. That is really unfortunate, to be honest. We are going to see that Rescue Stretcher getting him a non-GX Buzzwole. And we're just going to see the payment of retreat here and a pass it over. He needs to protect that Vulpix, if at all possible, because he knows how important Ninetales is going to be for the eventual game plan of, again, dealing with multiple Pokemon in the same turn. But it's a huge miss from him.
There's a horrendous miss, and I don't know, it might be a bit parental to say this, but I feel like it's almost a game-losing miss at this point because, I mean, now Javier's going to take another KO. He's got the smooth over, so he's got everything guaranteed to, take another prize. And, what does Alex do? He has to come back in terms of the tempo.
And on top of this, he's got Guzma in his hand, and he can use Guzma this turn alongside Gramble Energy, which he's just drawn into. That can deal with all the energy off of Alex's board, and he's off B-string now. This has gone from bad to worse from one big miss with Cynthia.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a huge swing from Javier. Now down to 2 prize cards. His Grambles look like they're going nowhere, and Alex is in really bad shape.
Yeah, everything has just kind of collapsed for him at this point. He plays Professor Kukui. I'm not even sure what I can see off that. Yeah, he can do 70 with Sledgehammer. That doesn't really achieve much at this point. He doesn't. All Javier needs is another Guzma to win the game. Because he does need a choice band or a shrine of punishment as well. But if he has that plus the Guzma, then he can just bring up the Tapu Lele and win.
Yeah, he's just eyeing up what he can do this turn. It's always good to completely map out your turn. As we keep saying, it's so important to get down to 0 cards. He has currently 2 in his hand. You don't want to start playing cards down freely and then just sort of figure out what to do next. You want to guarantee everything first. It might be Palpad that has to go to the top here if he wants to take a knockout. He has plenty of shrines in his in his deck available. He also has Choice Band. Both of these are live targets to get you to gust up that Tapu Lele GX full game this turn if he really wants to.
Yeah. So there goes the smooth over, putting Mysterious Treasure to the top actually. Instruct gets that, and then Mysterious Treasure discards something.
Yeah, he just wants to discard the Blitzel. He's just going for math fixing here. He's going to attach to the Gramble, and he's just going to take the single prize knockout because, again, he just knows he's in great shape. There's no need to overextend here. There's no danger if you just take the single prize.
Yeah, because at that point you can KO. Now you just KO anything that Alex puts out, and then that will seal him the game.
There potentially was some long, convoluted, difficult way with lots of instructs and sprints to win this turn, but Javier is just thinking, I don't need to stress about this. I can just win over 2 turns. My Grambles are safe. There's no real danger anymore. I can just slowly grind my way to the game.
Yeah, especially now that, because there's no way for, even with some kind of cool play with Snowy Wind doing 70 and 30, it still won't be enough to KO both Grambles in one turn. So Javier always has access to at least one, and one is all he needs to seal the match.
So Alolan Ninetales comes to the party oh so late, and we're also going to see Alex go for a Lycia here, but it all seems to be very awkward for him. If potentially he could take a knockout on this Gramble and just hope that Javier somehow doesn't have the answers available to him.
But with Deb Striker, Macargo, and the 2 Orangurus, I think there's almost no way he misses.
Yeah, it's a really rough spot for him, but he's got to play out what he can. Lycia getting him that Beast Energy Prism Star. Again, trying to do the right things, setting up that Mad Cargo. If there is any hope of a comeback, he has to make sure that's possible.
Yeah, it's one of those things where even if you're in a dire straight situation, you have to play to your outs, right? You can't just assume that your opponent will have the win, because if you play assuming your opponent will have the win, then there's nowhere for you to win. Then you won't do anything that will enable you to win. You have to bank on that 0.001% chance that your opponent does something wrong or whatever else.
And as we know, Gramble's a puzzle. Every single turn can be a pitfall. If Javier gets overexcited here, thinking he's got the game on lockdown, he could get punished by just making the wrong move at the wrong time. So Alex is fully correct in trying to make Javier actually take the win, even though he's in a really bad spot here. But Diantha looks to be the out. He can just get a playable card plus Ultra Ball. He can attach the choice band that's already in his hand, Ultra Ball the rest away for 0 targets, just simply cutting the deck. He can attach that choice band, and he takes the win here.
And the crowd likes that win.
Gramble is such a pleasing deck to watch because you know that it's a skill-intensive archetype, so it does feel like a real deserved win from Javier. And the fact that he's on this record and playing so well just is a testament to him that he's not